Everyone, welcome into the TexAgs Rewind presented by Specs in the Rollo Insurance Studio. David Nuno, Nick Savage breaking it all down. Nick, my favorite part of the show was, I think Aaron Torres today. Aaron, he tried to jab us a little bit, and then he softened up.
Yeah. Well, he jabs at you, and I honestly think he kind of gets under your skin, David. I'm not going to lie.
No, I mean, I just know that Aaron is scared of me, and the only way that
Y'all have never met in person, right?
No, he was supposed to come here when the UConn played in the national championship in Houston a couple years back, and he was scared.
Yeah, I was at that game. I was looking for him all the way up in section like 600, at the very top.
BEN, big event, Nick. What was your favorite part of the show?
I'm going to go Luke Evangelist. Liked his basketball takes today and all the time.
If we had another person in the studio, they would tell you Billy Liucci, our co-owner. We did a lot of, hey, Khalida.
He's too busy gossiping back here, not working.
What are they gossiping about?
Does it really matter?
No, you're right. It doesn't. But Billy Liucci was in here. We did a lot of football. We did some basketball. It was a great conversation. Olin Buchanan doing OB things. That and more. It's the Rewind. Check it.
Scary. It's a scary game coming up. South Carolina has not won a conference game. They're like 0-8.
Mm-hmm.
But have you seen their last 3 home games?
They've been tight.
They lost by 3 to number 1 Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
This is in Columbia. They lost by 1 to, what was Florida ranked? 5th?
Yep.
And Florida gave that one away. I mean, they gave
South
that
Carolina
one away.
gave that one away, yeah.
And then they lost by 5 to a damn good Mississippi State team. I don't know where they ranked, about 14th or 15th. So don't be deceived by the record.
Yep. So I was having a conversation with my sons on the way to, I dropped them off at school, and they have a soccer game tonight for Consol. And I told them, I was like, like if you were to choose an Aggie basketball player that you would want maybe Quinn to emulate, who would it be? On the court.
On the court?
On the court.
Okay. Because I was going to say, just as there's so many of them.
Sure.
Because there's some good dudes.
There isn't a bad answer in this, but I was thinking like Wade Taylor's like the alpha, right?
Yeah.
I told them something different, and this might not surprise you. Who do you think I told them?
You told them Pharrell Payne.
No, Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia, yeah.
Because Anderson Garcia, to me,
Hispanic.
Well, that's not why.
Yeah. So he says.
Because
they stick together.
Yeah. Well, the size. Basically, for me, the way he plays basketball, and like that's what I loved about this. Like he's always been that player. The numbers this year haven't been what we're used to, but there could be other reasons for that. But the game we saw against Oklahoma, to me, is like the epitome of what Andy does. Getting to every loose ball, outrunning people, diving, doing these little things. To me, that's what I want. I want my star player to do it, and I love my guy who's just there, my glue guy, to do that. So I want more Andy. Okay?
More Andy. Okay.
More Andy. That's number one. Yeah, we do stick together. Rebounders stick together. I'm an elite 5'10" rebounder. Elite in the 5'7" and under league.
Ay, caramba.
When you think of South Carolina basketball, you don't really think of the Auburns, the Alabamas, like one of the best teams in the SEC historically. But A&M's probably been the better team for most of the Buzz Williams era, but they're 2-9 since 2016, which is actually pretty surprising. I knew they had struggled with South Carolina, but I didn't know it was that bad.
It was that bald-headed Cuban.
Love that guy.
Yeah, right?
Mr.
And
Frank.
so it's interesting because South Carolina, once again, is the overmatched team you would think in this matchup. But like Obi said, they've done some pretty good things against the best teams in the SEC. They were beating Florida for like 99% of that game. They almost beat Auburn when they were number 1. They almost beat Vanderbilt. They've come really close. They took Mississippi State to overtime. So this is definitely what you would say is a trap game. Our good friend Matthew Dawson likes to say that you're either hot or you're due, and South Carolina is certainly due for a win. I mean, when you look at the fact that they're 0-8 in SEC play, metrically and like according to the net and KenPom, they're actually kind of more like the Georgia and Ole Miss teams that finished 10th and 11th in the SEC last year. So that just shows you how elite the SEC is, and they've just kind of been a victim of that going 0-8. But any other year, this South Carolina team would have finished 10th, 11th, or 12th in the league. But it's just been a rough patch for them.
Again, right now, I got to be honest. I couldn't tell you who their leading scorer is at South Carolina or anything like that. I haven't checked that out yet. But I was watching that Florida game, and and Florida's really good. And like Luke said, they were the better team. And then late in the game, they were trying to. Oh yeah, it's right there. Okay, they were trying to inbound a ball after and threw it away. Threw it right to a Florida guy, and it was a huge play in that. So Colin Murray Boyles is averaging 15.2 points.
Almost 9 rebounds a game.
That guy.
Him and Janai Broom are the only two SEC players averaging at least 15 points and 8.9 rebounds. So think of him as kind of a poor man's Janai Broom.
I'd be lying if I said I've watched much. I mean, pretty early on, it was clear they were going to be the worst team in the league. And I will say, I think the thing with this league is every night there's a big game, so they kind of get, to quote, bad terminology, but kind of deprioritize, because it's just, I can watch South Carolina, or I can watch Florida, Tennessee, or Texas A&M. So I'd be lying if I said that I've watched a ton of them. I'll be perfectly honest.
Well, they're a team that scares me, though. If all you have to do is look at their box score, and yeah, they're losing. They've lost a bunch in a row. But all these games are nail biters, right? Like they almost beat Florida. The almost beat thing is what scares me. And by the way, it's very similar to Texas, who is supremely talented, but they were almost beating top teams. They almost beat Auburn, and then they do beat A&M after being up by 18 points. And they scare me because they're at home and they play well at home. They just haven't been able to figure it out.
So I agree with that. And that, first of all, you're right. They've been very close. They haven't been able to get over the hump. The thing about South Carolina is, like you take an Arkansas who's really bad right now. Like there are nights where Arkansas just doesn't show up. And it's like, oh, okay, that's who you are. That's not who South Carolina is. They show up to play every night. Sometimes the other team just has more players. They can't close it out. The Florida game, they literally had the lead until the final 5 seconds. So I am actually 1,000% with you on that. And then I think you also have to look at it from the A&M perspective as well, is older team, veteran team. I get it. But it's human nature to say, hey, we've had all these big games in a row, in-state rivals, regional rivals, went to Rupp Arena, played this team, had Alabama at home. Oh, we're playing the last place team. It's easy for us to kind of look ahead. And nobody thinks that, but, subconsciously it happens. And so I think it's both perspectives. Is one, South Carolina's been playing everybody tough. Two, I just think it's human nature when you see that a team is the last place in the standings. You don't know any of their players. None of their players are lottery picks. It's not a natural rival to have a letdown. It's going to be, a late tip-off, relatively speaking. So, yeah, I think it's totally fair for you to kind of, say, is this some sort of trap game? Because I think there might be something to that.
Just both of them need to get more comfortable as a starting quarterback. And Reed has now, I think they both have plenty of experience. Mm-hmm. Due to last season, so there's not an excuse on that front. Man, I do. If you're asking me, do I think people are sleeping on Marcel Reed and the potential jump that he could make from last year, this year? Hell yeah, because you look at some of the games he's played and some of the plays he's made in certain situations. Mm-hmm. I know he was ineffective against Texas, and again, that defense and. Look, their DBs were a lot better than the A&M receivers, and they got a ton of pressure, and the running game wasn't working for A&M, and the running game wasn't great for A&M after losing Le'Veon anyway. And he had a really rough second half against South Carolina, had a nice first half. I mean, he led them to 20 first half points against them, and that was after a slow start. But you look at, the situations he's been in, and I know, he had moments on the road against South Carolina in that defense, even after Moss went out, being thrown in and coming in off the bench in front of 100,000 plus at Kyle Field, and just absolutely lighting up, carving up LSU in that moment. Going on the road, starting a game, winning a game in the Swamp, when a lot of people thought, man, this could be the end of the A&M season before it even starts. Did that, and then I thought the Auburn game. Look at the Auburn game. Look, at the end of the day, he made the throw to tie the game and send it to a fifth overtime. The throw was right there. But he made so many other plays in that game to bring A&M back from 21-0 down, to give them the lead late that the defense was unable to preserve. There were moments in that game on the road at Jordan-Hare, again, in front of a sold-out house at night. He has shown a ton of He led A&M to the go-ahead score in the fourth quarter against USC. And in the closing moments, and I know he threw 2 picks in that game. One of them was a perfect strike for a touchdown to Noah Thomas. Went off Noah's helmet. He should have had 1 interception and a
another touchdown.
Pretty spectacular performance in that game, if you think about it. Like I said, led them down to the go-ahead score. So he's been in real moments in whether it's a bowl game environment, road games at places like the Swamp, Jordan Hare, and Bryce Williams Stadium. All
right, closing out here on a TexAgs Rewind presented by Specs in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I don't know if I did the sponsor read beforehand, but I'm going to just do it here on the outro because I love those guys, and I want Nick to tell the people what to do.
Now I want you to tell people what to do. Is that the first time anyone's Uno reversed it on you? I just did. So go ahead, David. Tell the people.
I'm not going to tell the people. I'm just going to sit here and look at the camera.
This show is going to have no likes and no comments, and we're not going to get any subscriptions out of it. So that's tough.
Whatever you do, don't do what he just said. That's it. Bye.